I have a very love-hate relationship with Hazbin Hotel and the Hellaverse, to be honest. On one hand, there's a lot to love. Amazing character designs, intriguing story, and really strong character moments. But there's also a lot to hate. Like the odd pacing, outright confusing storytelling, and whatever the hell is going on here. Oh, a single bad cut of animation. I think I'm going to have to stop watching. It's weird because I wish I could say I just hated the show, but with how much time I've spent watching and thinking about it, I have to admit, I'm just a fan. An indie cartoon that started off on YouTube that has now been picked up and released by one of the biggest companies on the planet is such an awe-inspiring story. Doubly amazing considering how good some of the show is. I had no intentions on making another video related to this series or Helluva this early, mainly because I thought we weren't gonna get any more Spindleverse content in 2025. And then oops, Hazbin Hotel Season 2 comes out on the 29th of October. Honestly, I don't know how I'm surprised considering this was the 6th year anniversary of the show, and I'm pretty sure Season 1 came out the same time too. Once I found out, I still had no intention of making a video on Hazbin, mainly because I didn't think I'd be that interested in Season 2. But then I watched it, and I realized something. I had a lot more to say about this season than the first and all of Helluva. With the pilot setting up an interesting world and the first season not really following up on that, aside from these tiny glimmers of incredible moments, I was sure that the second season would be more of the same thing. I thought Season 2 would introduce way too many characters who would all be fighting for screen time, throw countless concepts at the audience, and then not flesh them out, before hurriedly concluding everything in an unsatisfying way. I thought I'd say this season needed more episodes or was lacking focus, but I was wrong. Kind of. Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel is simultaneously a major step forward from the previous season, and also somehow one of the most disappointing seasons of television I have ever seen. It tells a legitimately interesting story with characters I care about, but also manages to double down on every single issue I had with the first season, while adding brand new problems. I just need to share this with the class. I haven't experienced something this conflicting in a good while. That is so interesting to me. So here we are. Also, if you're a fan of this series and you're here watching this video, then I appreciate it. I never want to rain on people having fun, and I hope I'm able to convey myself in a way that makes that very clear. So if you're still watching this video, then thank you. Anyway, I'm Ty, or Bored Oranges, and this is my thoughts on the second season of Hazbin Hotel. For those of you who need a refresher or just haven't watched the show, Hazbin Hotel Season 2 basically immediately starts from the end of the first one, with the death of Sir Pentious, defeat of Adam, and Alistor permanently losing all of his aura.
What just happened? Fuck. You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
The hotel has begun to gain immense popularity after successfully defending themselves against a massive armed angel fleet. We're immediately introduced to the first conflict of the season, which is the sinners in hell seeing the hotel as an angel slaughterhouse instead of a home for redemption and eventual ascension. The TV head guy from season 1, Vox, yeah, he has issues with this. He attempts to transform this interest with the hotel into a hate mob against heaven to cause an insurrection that places him as the king of both heaven and hell. Alistor in the background is currently forging a plan away from his... Oh god, there's no way to not make this sound strange. Alistor is currently forging a plan to break away from his master, who has been gleefully getting in the way of his schemes. Heaven is currently in pandemonium over the reveal that sinners can actually be redeemed, which causes a rift so bad that two major factions of heaven have formed. The ones who literally have no issue of redeemed sinners and loot. I feel like the factions might be a bit lopsided. All 4 major groups start the season totally separate before their ambitions pull them closer and closer together, all reaching its satisfying climax in episode 8 that I am purposely not showing you for no reason in particular. A common trend of this season and video will be this mixed bag idea. Each chapter of this video is going to be filled with praise for this show and also a sea of not praise. Now that I've caught everyone up on what happened this season, I want to talk about the story of Hazbin Hotel as a whole. In season 1, you can pay me to care about what was going on. I felt like the pacing was so out of whack. There would be entire episodes focusing on building up characters' bonds, only for someone next episode to explain how, actually, we've returned to the status quo and those bonds don't exist. Or actually, interesting bits of storytelling being skipped over for the sake of focusing on something that didn't personally interest me all too much. If I had to summarize my issue with season 1's writing and story in a single word, it would be unfocused. The writers wanted to show me this really interesting and fun world, but didn't want to take the time to actually let me experience that. Like a full course 5-star meal served in sample sizes. It's good, I just want more so I can actually feel full. Season 2 somewhat fixes this issue for me. While it felt like nothing had an impact in season 1, the second season's plot was going crazy. Sure, there were parts I didn't like, and I will get to that, but I want to say that a majority of these episodes were actually entertaining. Things were happening. I feel like most people agree with this next take, but I want to highlight just how much better the show has gotten with conveying points without just a guy outright saying it. A scene I actually refuse to stop talking about because it annoyed me so much is one where Husk explains everyone's character bios.
You get drunk and bitch about him all the time. Everyone likes to bitch to the bartender. I know everything about you and these motherfuckers at this point. That one is an insecure buffoon whose lonely ass watches you idiots sleep. Princess is a bleeding heart who wants to solve everybody else's problems except her own.
What? No, what? No.
This one judges everyone and everything because she hates herself. And Nifty? You don't even want to know what her deal is.
The reason this got under my skin as hard as it did was because we'd never get to see these characters acting out these traits. Instead, we are told how to feel about them, and I hate that. Season 2 uses almost every opportunity to hint at future plot points or a character's true motivations. In the first song of the season, Hazbin Guarantee/Trust Us, there's a strong emphasis to show how people are reacting to Charlie's coexistence message, and also her obliviousness to people being pushed away by her my way or the highway mentality. People walking out of the hotel while she is lost in her own solo is such a great touch and shows us so much about this character immediately, and also what issues she'll have to self-reflect on to make her hotel idea work. Why aren't we changing scene? Then you have the V section of the song. On a surface level, this has the same theme of Charlie's part. Join our crew, we'll give you a great afterlife. But on a deeper level, Charlie's lyrics are a lot more hopeful and talk about a permanent long-term fix. The V's lyrics focus more on a short-term reward. We'll make you rich and famous, they're gonna love you. But once they're sick of you, we'll farm the outrage and then we're done with you. The end also shows Vox's main issue, which is his want for people's attention to only be on him, and how that style of thinking doesn't really work for the other two Vs. Hell, even something as simple as a character doing an action in the background enforces their wider character. The character designs in this show have genuinely grown on me pretty hard. I went from someone who wasn't really too big on basically any design to actually studying the characters and being quite impressed with just how much time went into them, like Vox or Lucifer. I think Vivzipop is really good at making interesting designs with strong character moments. I'm not being held at gunpoint to say this. Seriously, this season really showed me that all of these characters are at the very least interesting. A character like Nifty, who I don't even like, is given this really fun moment in a later episode. I can see why my friends like her so much. Imagine that level of attention, but for almost every character. Husk is someone I want to know so much more about after this season, and I was pretty indifferent to him before. The characters from season 1 are a lot more split up, and while I genuinely want to see them banter now, I did love how they all had their own mini stories that progressed. Not all of the characters were fortunate enough for this to happen. I cannot express how strong some of these moments in this season are in as much detail as I'd like without destroying the runtime of this video and FNAF-gating myself again. These are moments that I unironically quote to my friends in private. That's a pretty big deal, the quoting part, not me having friends, but it's still a massive step up. However, there is a pretty major problem I have with this style of writing too, and for the most part, it won't even be on those strong moments. I need to talk about the moments in between. Shameless plug. You know exactly where I'm going with this. So my ego is proportionate to my sub count. You should follow me and join the Discord and give me money. Thank you. So, in my free time, I like to write things, whether it's something I came up with or just co-writing. I'd say typically it's a very good time, but something my friend, scriptwriter, pointed out is that I would come up with an idea for something and then try and shift the entire world I was building up for that one moment or scene, or character motivation to happen and make sense. And that could make certain aspects of my writing hard to believe or just convoluted. While I personally think that I can do nothing wrong and might just be a perfect being, and while I was very upset with him daring to criticize my writing because, like, I flipping day. Like, I know my writing's amazing, like, come on! I calmly agreed. Now that I was made aware of this tunnel vision, I had a he just like me for real moment while I was complaining about Undertale use. A lot of them skipped to the Sans fight instead of fleshing stuff out, and the reason this gave me an epiphany was because that is literally what I was doing. I bring up this little anecdote mainly to show how easy it is to fall into a tunnel-visioned mindset, and to also say I sympathize with that. A writer focusing on a moment and how impactful it's gonna be while not realizing they are making every other aspect of their writing worse, to facilitate that is more common than you think. I mean, I've done that. And it bleeds out of almost every moment I like in this season. I get the feeling that the writing for an episode of Hazbin starts with a character in position A, but they need to get to position B for this other moment, so we'll just do something, we'll figure it out later. And that style is not inherently bad. The issue is, whatever reason the writer comes up with to move from point A to B is lackluster, or obvious that they didn't give it enough or any thought on how this impacts things like characters' intelligence or, I don't know, major aspects of your show? Heaven's Executioner army is strange. Before Penchus, most people in Heaven were under the assumption that a sinner can't be redeemed. Some of Heaven's population thought sinners should be killed en masse for that status. The reveal of a group of Heaven's population going down every year to do a literal genocide should be a big deal. That's what was said in season 1. Doubly so because of how many people were in on it, like Seraphim, a high-ranking angel. As far as the world of Hazbin Hotel is concerned, this would be the Watergate of their universe. Just ignore Penchus for a second and think about how a character in Heaven should be reacting. A very famous, influential, and powerful angel just revealed that he and many others were involved in the purging of millions of lives. Despite the outrage bubbling in Heaven at the time, that same person then goes down to hell to do an annual purge anyway, and is then killed by one of the sinners. There should be a million thoughts swirling around right now. You would be questioning your very existence. How could such an evil group of people be allowed in Heaven? Are the sinners coming for our heads now? How far does the corruption go? If these people are allowed high-ranking positions in Heaven, then what even governs what a good or bad person is? This is something that should be getting a massive amount of focus. Heaven should be in an uproar over this news. Every sinner in hell should have something to say about this. One scene. This aspect of the plot is given a single scene. Episode 2 starts with an arena full of people talking about the annual exterminations, and a character does bring up some of the points I listed earlier. There are people asking Seraphim how she could allow this order if sinners can be redeemed. A truth move. So, how does Sarah respond? How does this show tackle this major plot point? Well, Sarah turns her attention towards Penchus, asking how he got to heaven. People start to argue amongst themselves, and then this happens.
Facts aside, I think it might be good to stay on the subject of this colorful snake thing.
Yeah, this is about Sir Penchus.
Wait. No, it wasn't. The start of this scene is entirely focused on the actions of Adam and Sarah, but I guess everyone was affected by jailhouse lock and just forgot what the entire point of this massive meeting was about. This just makes me think that everyone in this room are either idiots or willfully ignorant to actual corruption happening in their faces. If the joke was that heaven really was that corrupt and the citizens of heaven were just that used to it, I'd find it pretty funny, but it's played straight. My question is, why bring up any of this if you weren't gonna do anything with it? How does one of the most interesting aspects of the show turn into flavor text? Well, you see, the focus needs to be on Penchus right now. This is his moment. Why should it matter how we move from point A to B when we can just have everyone get short-term amnesia? The original point made at the start of the scene is brought up one more time by Lute, but everyone, aside from one other character, kind of just ignores her and moves on. This was never brought up by another angel in a meaningful way for the rest of the season. It's like this for all the major angels too. Every scene with Lute has her being as discriminatory as possible to the sinners in hell.
Demon filth is not to be trusted. I am willing to give my life for heaven to stop those filthy fucking monsters.
Wait, she hasn't said anything in this scene. I wonder why. During the season, the angels are trying to make peace with the sinners because they realize the error of their ways and also don't want hell to rise up and cause even more bloodshed. Now that we understand these two things, I have a question to ask. You're about to give this grand speech to the sinners of hell about how you are wrong and very sorry for sliming out millions of them for no reason. Who is the worst possible person you could bring to this? Wait, they're bringing Lute with them? I wish I was maliciously twisting the story here, but that is just what the characters choose to do for some reason. Sarah, Emily, and Abel genuinely go down to make peace, and they bring Lute? Why? All right, fellas, we're going to this BLM rally to apologize for segregation. Let's make sure we're bringing our best boys for fixing these race relations, like the Grand Wizard of the KKK. I love the way the show goes about getting Lute into the scene too. Despite her being very abrasive and quick to anger, she suddenly unlocks a perfect poker face and says nothing until it's time for her to make the angels look even worse than they already do in the eyes of the sinners. We need to move Lute from point A to B. Why would any of these characters let her do this? It's not important. There isn't a way to just handwave this and leave it there, because this negatively impacts every other character in this scene and forces me to pick two very unfortunate options for how this could have taken place. Either all of this group are incredibly stupid, or the writers did not ask the questions I'm asking right now, and that really sucks. In a vacuum, Lute having this temper tantrum in front of the sinners of hell is a great moment. It blows that the steps taken to get here sacrifice the intelligence of 4 other characters in the process. If you want Lute to have this crash out, think about how she is going to get there. Maybe she bribed a higher ranking angel who can make portals. That place is already corrupt top to bottom, so emphasize that aspect, and now you can have your scene without shutting off everyone's logic receptors. Thank God it's only these 2 scenes where characters have their intelligence curbed for the plot to happen the way the writers wanted it to. It's not. These 2 scenes are just the tip of the iceberg for how confusing these writing choices are gonna get. Sir Penchus and the plot surrounding him almost made the show unwatchable at certain points. Not because I found him annoying or whatever, but because the conflict he faces for the entire season, it makes no sense. After Penchus's death in season 1, he was reborn in heaven. he was redeemed. A massive point of friction in this season is Charlie needing proof that her hotel works. Vox uses the fact that nobody can contact Penchus as proof of Charlie lying. The path this story is going to take should be obvious. Somehow, they need to get Penchus to Hell so he can show its residents that he has been redeemed. This is a trivial task in the world of Hazbin Hotel, and for some reason, it was dragged out for 7 episodes. Firstly, communication between heaven and hell sits in this really weird middle ground where it's either extremely easy, e.g., Charlie having a phone that allows her to call her mother in heaven, or extremely difficult, e.g., Charlie turning the balcony of her hotel into a landing strip in hopes the angels see it. My issue is that this part of the season's story is stopped by Penchus doing a FaceTime with everyone. This is treated as a massive task because connecting to Heaven's servers is really hard, and only the V's network can do it. A lot of time is spent fighting so the citizens of Hell can see Penchus. I get why this happened the way it did. It gives everyone something to do, and also enforces the bonds between the residents of Hell. What about the portals though? Throughout Hazbin Hotel's 2 seasons, we see angels with the ability to freely teleport between heaven and hell with no effort. If Charlie needs to show the people of Hell that Penchus really was redeemed, then surely this would be the easiest way to sort that out, especially with someone like Emily, who is as quick to action as Charlie. Oh, I should rewind the scene a little bit.
Do you think Charlie should know?
Oh my gosh, Charlie! I should tell Charlie about you and this and everything! Be right back!
Wait! Please, can I see my friend?
Why would you leave him? Okay, I'm actually fine with this scene too. Emily is excitable and impulsive. It is within her character to have done this. But what if there was a scene where the characters were discussing the issues brewing in Hell and how Penchus would be a great help in stopping that? It would be pretty silly if a scene like that did happen and Penchus wasn't immediately brought out to heaven to fix that issue. Here is a scene where the exact scenario happens.
Yes, I'm happy to help.
So, Penchus, what do you think we should do?
How can the demons accept anything we say after what we've done?
A wise woman once told me that it starts with sorry. Okay. Bye.
Does anyone even flirt with the idea of taking Penchus with them? Does Penchus try to follow them? Nope. In an earlier episode, Penchus tried to bloody shoot himself over being in heaven. There is a path forward right there, and he just stands there. There isn't a reason given for this either. The best we get is Penchus asking Emily if he can leave, and she tells him no without giving a reason.
Can I see them?
Oh, well, no.
I don't believe everything needs to be explained, but this is a time where an explanation absolutely needs to be given. Every time a character transports between heaven and hell, I just think, why isn't Penchus going through the portal? When you introduce a plot point like this and have a solution that stares at all of the characters in the face and no one brings it up, I'm gonna be asking why nobody does this. A single line about Penchus being physically unable to go back to hell is all I need and I'm good. Sure, I can do the explaining for the show and assume it's reason, but this is a major aspect of the story with characters doing everything in their power to avoid even acknowledging this. All because Penchus can't be revealed until the final episode. If he does that, then the sinners in hell would take Charlie's hotel seriously. They wouldn't get drawn in by Vox's lies, and then the plot for this entire season wouldn't happen. If that is the case, then you need to give me a good reason why Penchus can't just slash TP to hell and end the conflict in like 2 episodes. It is so bizarre to me because the show also has moments where characters make dumb decisions that fit their personalities, or they're forced into those situations. Take for example, Charlie bringing Nifty onto TV. This was originally an issue for me until I realized the show was setting this up in the previous episodes. Charlie can't show Penchus off, and in the last episode she pushed away Angel, her biggest success story, and Husk, who is probably the most composed person in the hotel aside from Vaggie. Charlie can't bring her because she was involved in the extermination of sinners. I don't think people would be happy to see her on the news. So that only left Nifty, who predictably doesn't really help. The song is very fun, and I love the total style shift once Charlie asked her to help differently. Here, we have the characters in the story doing something that makes sense for them to do. It goes back to that one lessons from the creators of South Park.
What should happen between every beat that you've written down is either the word therefore or but, right? So what I'm saying is that you come up with an idea and it's like, okay, this happens, right? And then this happens. No, it should be this happens, and therefore this happens. But this happens, therefore this happens.
There's even scenes where the writers do something subversive, and it can feel like they're wasting good plot points, but it actually strengthens a character's values. In the final 2 episodes, Angel Dust is brainwashed by Vox, who then uses him to slander the hotel. Hello, my name is Angel Dust, and the hotel is crap. Yes, please subscribe. Charlie and the others just know Vox brainwashed Angel Dust, which makes no sense. However, I'm fine to look past that because of how well written Charlie is in this scene. Normally, when a character is brainwashed into being against their friends, they'll eventually be freed and then have to deal with the consequences of their actions while they were brainwashed. It's a good way to twist the knife. What I thought would have happened here is the characters being pissed at Angel for the stuff he said because they didn't know he was brainwashed. But instead, Charlie immediately knows something is wrong. She knows the type of person Angel Dust is and doesn't even consider for a moment he would say these things without someone like Val or Vox manipulating him to do so. And I really like that. Regardless of how I felt about these characters, this scene makes me understand just how close all of these people are to one another. It's such a unique angle. I love this. It tells you so much about Charlie's character without some dude in a bar having to explain it to you. Okay, I'm gonna stop bringing up that scene. So much is conveyed here. Charlie won't abandon her friends. She trusts Angel Dust to do the right thing, and she isn't the type to allow someone to suffer if she can do something about it. I like this style of writing. It's rewarding to pay attention to the things characters are doing and saying. My issue with tell not show is barely worth mentioning now. This approach to writing a story really worked for me this time around. But there's still points where I wish there were more subtlety in the writing, like certain ideas in the Heaven plot or certain lines characters say. There's a moment where Angel Dust throws himself in front of a train to try and save Husk. Husk gets mad and says he would spank Angel. I already saw Husk's protectiveness over Angel in season 1, so this felt a little on the nose. There's a couple of lines like that, but it's not that big of a deal.
She knew hell could be great, and we can make hell great again!
Oh. It's that big of a deal. Oh god, I didn't even want to touch this one, but here goes. Before season 2 released, VivziePop posted a thread on Blue Sky to vent about the accidental similarities Hazbin would have to our real-world political climate. Season 2 of Hazbin has just become increasingly more topical, and it pisses me off because that's not why we wrote it how we did. We wrote a season about a demon manipulator wanting to gain power and control, and whoops, one got freaking elected. Guess it's relevant now. Neat. This is mostly because when it comes out and some stuff hits a little too flipping close, I want you all to know we wrote this crap 2 to 3 years ago, and we did not think it would be this real right now. I want to empathize with this statement because it does really suck when something you make is accidentally strapped to a hot and highly divisive political issue, mainly because it dominates the discussion of the thing you made. Whether the creator intended to or not, everything is now placed under this political lens, and that is extremely frustrating. My agreement of this statement started to dwindle when I realized Hazbin has major plot points that are inseparable from real-world politics. Ignoring the political climate of the United States of America for a moment, the V's are drenched with scenes and dialogue that really looks and sounds like commentary on real-world issues. The slogans of these dudes is "Trust us." With your media, your news, your hopes and dreams, we'll tell you who to love and hate and twist things to maintain control. That is all they do this season. And the writers clearly wanted to show the audience that this sucks and people shouldn't allow themselves to be brainwashed like that. And I agree. A message like that, however, is inherently political though, and also not a new thing. There's dozens of examples to pick through in just England, for example, of huge anti-media movements focusing on the same issues brought up in Hazbin Hotel. Le Media is a ragebait factory that overreaches and feeds everyone misinfo is a statement that has been echoed for decades. There's this really niche book about this exact idea, actually. You might have heard of it. I would be lying if I said I didn't find it funny how Vox literally says make hell great again. Sucks that MAGA only started being a thing in 2024. I feel extremely uncomfortable talking about all of these flaming hot issues in a video about a cartoon on a channel that makes videos on Undertale and Five Nights at Freddy's, but I couldn't leave it alone after noticing this. Vivzy Pop does not want her show to be ruined by a discussion of real-world politics, and I think that's fair. But if you don't want to be tied to real-world politics, then I don't know, maybe don't tackle major political issues like discrimination. The angels in heaven and the sinners in hell are fictional. Obviously, their issues are not real and have no effect on the real world. I don't think someone is gonna cite Hazbin as a reason for something being bad IRL. The conflict between both sides does echo battles marginalized groups have had to face in the last century. Heaven is literally the ruling class. They are untouchable, all-powerful, and for the last 7 years in universe, literally held every sinner's life in the palms of their hands. The leader of Heaven's military is extremely discriminatory towards this group of people, believing they are inherently evil and deserve less. Sinners aren't even allowed to step foot in heaven without everyone freaking out. A group of people who have been deemed bad by an unknown entity have all been placed in this specific area away from the people who have been deemed good. This bad area is riddled with crime and seems more run down than the place all of the good people are. There's also people in charge who have been actively trying to stop these bad people from gaining any amount of power by culling their numbers every year. I feel like explaining the setup to most people would immediately have them tying this back to politics. But you gotta understand, racism, sexism, classism, and a bunch of other stuff didn't become major issues until like 2 or 3 years ago. You know, right after the writing of season 2 wrapped up. Any relation you make to politics is completely coincidental. You want to know why something like The Amazing Digital Circus doesn't get links to political issues, other than the fact that the characters look like this? The show doesn't introduce a ruling class and a marginalized group that they can oppress. That would have made episode 6 very different if they did. I believe we have a common case of wanting to have your cake and eat it too. Vivzy Pop wants a show that is apolitical, while having actual political issues or allegories depicted in her show. Fictional or not, the foundation of the heaven and hell conflict is based on a real-world problem, and I find that hard to ignore. Why do you think people get so mad at some depictions of groups in something like Harry Potter? It's because J.K. Rowling is a person living in the real world, and has based some of her fictional one on the things she has seen in real life, or what she pretends to have seen in real life. Kingsley Shacklebot, my nigga? There's an extra layer of comedy too, because I legitimately think the writers made a scathing political commentary on classism and racism. The actual content depicted is pretty good for the most part. Heaven thought they could get away with these awful crimes because sinners can't harm angels. They have all of the power and therefore won't need to face the consequences. However, because of this arrogance, they leave the only way they can be harmed all over hell after an extermination is complete. Sinners now have the power to defend themselves. Adam panics, tries to actually kill every last sinner, but he's stopped. And during this long process, also lets slip to the average citizen who was unaware of his Omni's crimes at this point that he and many others were slaughtering the sinners in hell every year. Heaven is shown to be a bit of a hug box, a place where the struggles of others are ignored for a 24/7 party with puppies and rainbows. That safe space crumbles when people actually have to answer for their crimes. Hell has a reason to be furious with these people, and Heaven, not wanting an even bigger loss of lives, attempts to apologize with gift baskets. No sarcasm, this is incredible writing. Of course, they would have no idea how to go about making any of this right and go for this comical display of guilt. Vox even calls us out directly. To me, it was very obvious that the show wanted to highlight Heaven's sheltered community, as well as their legitimate faults in the last few years with how they've treated Hell. But then the show does something weird. It tries to soften the blow. There are multiple times the show will just gloss over the fact that characters in Heaven did one of the most despicable acts a person can do. But even deeper than that, the conclusion these characters reach at the end of season 2 is odd, to say the least. As I said earlier, the people in Hell are now aware of the reason they were getting executed every year. It was to keep them down and because Heaven was scared of them. In canon, millions of sinners were killed. Sure, they're bad people or whatever, but the show also highlights how BS the system is in the first place. The Zero Sinners plan was also kicked off by Charlie's mom doing peaceful protests. With all of that context, Hell has every reason to be upset with Heaven. They should be allowed to defend themselves from future attacks. But also, if Heaven is to actually try and repair their reputation with these people, they can't have all of this control, because the powers in charge have proven their judgment is horrendous. Narratively speaking, there should be some sort of consequence for the characters involved too, right? Sure, Lute lost her arm and Adam was killed, but it's not like it was a one-man show. Seraphim loses nothing, despite signing off on all of this, and that is very bizarre to me. That's still not the worst case of this though. We still need to address the fact that Vox is actually kind of right. There's a major asterisk at the end of that sentence. Heaven abused their authority over sinners just trying to speak out against a very unfair system. They oppressed these people, and if Heaven isn't going to make things right, then the sinners will have to fight for their justice. That's totally reasonable for a story depicting a group like this. Vox, however, is using this outrage to insert himself as king of both realms, which is bad. And because of that, anyone siding with Vox is instantly seen as incorrect and brainwashed. Oh no. Yes, Vox is exploiting tensions between the two sides for profit, but the tension is there for a reason? He didn't make that stuff up. He didn't have to slander the angels like he did with Charlie. He just pointed out what they did and how it isn't right, and I agree with that part. However, no other character in the show who is depicted as good or someone we should be rooting for has this opinion. A lot of them either don't care or think everything Vox is saying is objectively incorrect when it's really not. Once Vox is defeated, all of that justified anger fades away. It's like all of these major issues lose all credibility once Vox does. I think this moment is a perfect way to summarize my issue with the show's politics but not really, whoops, plot for the season. For whatever reason, the writers want to have their own marginalized group for their fictional world, but want none of the baggage of actually needing to deal with those issues. I'm not even talking about real life here. Looking at this story and nothing else still highlights my own personal dissatisfaction with the route the writers took for the Heaven and Hell conflict. They set up this really interesting tension between these two factions in their world and could have milked that for some really good bits of drama. The show obviously wants to say that everyone has the potential to be redeemed. Fine. Surely using the animosity between Hell and Heaven would allow you to enhance that point, right? Have characters who aren't Vox bring up the points he was correct about, and then have Heaven address these problems directly. But oh no, Adam's old army has problems with Heaven trying to build peace, and a new conflict starts. How does Heaven even repair their non-existent relationship with Hell after such an inhumane act? This isn't even something Charlie has put any thought into. How does she go about having both sides live in harmony? These are just the first things that popped into my head. They might not even be good ideas. The point is, there is a lot that could have happened with this part of the plot, and the writers dropped it the second it no longer pushed the plot in the direction they wanted. The end of the season has all of the sinners be dubbed winners by Heaven, and all of that tension is just gone. I thought this was a huge waste. At the end of the day, this tension that has been building for these past 2 seasons, this Greek epic that was forming where both sides genuinely do unforgivable things and still somehow need to reach a mutual understanding were just nice accessories for the characters. The writers don't want to think about any greater implications of how this impacts their world. To them, it's just a tool for drama that is only treated as seriously as it should be when it's convenient. And we shouldn't think any deeper than that. I mean, just look at Vaggie. Vox wants to stir anger between Heaven and also totally discredit the hotel. If he wanted to do that, why not bring up Vaggie? You know, one of those angels involved in the exterminations? The whole point of his massive speech was how the angels have mistreated the sinners. Wouldn't it be a perfect twist of the knife to bring up Vaggie? And how Charlie is literally sleeping with the enemy? Well, if he did that, then people watching the show might rethink their opinions on Vaggie. Her actions would have a trickling impact on every moment she has in the show. What if a character survived the executions by a hair, but lost friends and family, and they approached Vaggie? I think an interaction like that would be awesome. It's in line with this season's themes of trying to make things right and would give Vaggie more things to do this season. But that would also mean acknowledging one of your main characters did something pretty unforgivable. Oh, I have the angst of working for this awful regime and willingly taking a part in a genocide. Oh, this makes me so interesting but still likable because I know better now. Just don't think about what I was doing during the last 7 years. It kinda goes back to the point I made about Stolas and Blitz in Helluva, where there was a purposeful attempt to dilute the two's worst actions we know about, like Stolas cheating on his wife, but actually it's okay because she's pure evil, or Blitz burning down his old circus because he's a self-destructive person, turning into a legitimate accident removed from Blitz's overall character. It's written in a way to keep fans from hating these characters, and I don't know, I think that's unfortunate. A likable, morally grey character does not need a backdoor justification or excuse for the bad things they've done. They are allowed to do wrong things without these actions being softened, or in Vaggie and Seraphim's case, ignored and erased. It feels like a disservice to Vaggie especially because I really want to have an opinion on her. Despite her being a major character and the co-host of the hotel now, she doesn't do, oh my god, the hotel. This is another really big positive part of the season. It felt as if the point of the show, you know, the hotel, took a major backseat in season 1 and didn't really progress past the initial addition of Penchus. And while it's still not the primary focus, that's someone else, there was a clear effort to show a real progression for the hotel between seasons. There are background characters who have started to appear as residents for the hotel. I know that doesn't sound like a huge bonus worthy of talking about, but I think this is another part of the show that I greatly appreciate. It shows us that the citizens of Hell are starting to change their opinions on the hotel, which is a massive departure from the pilot where people were rinsing Charlie for even having the idea. It also gives characters an opportunity to bounce off one another, and I liked it.
I just don't understand why she left me. It's because you're a moronic, unthinking damn fool. Who was too nonsensically doltish to realize that you're a mindless chuckle fuck with your constant gormless buffoonery. Yeah, maybe. Am I doing therapy right?
These moments are very few and far between because a lot is happening this season, but whenever we're able to just see these people interact, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I usually look forward to it. Alistor and Lucifer bickering was fun, and I will be going into more detail about that later. Everyone interrupting Vaggie's plan is also charming and creative too. I would go as far as to say that these examples are some of my favorite moments of the season. The whole redemption aspect feels very underutilized though. Similarly to the first season, there is a bit of an episode dedicated to addressing what allows a person to be redeemed, before that is left in the dust to focus on more important stuff. I don't hate this, as I don't know how the writers could focus on this aspect of the show for 8 full episodes unless they'd started speedrunning people popping up into heaven. It also doesn't help that these episodes are usually the ones I dislike the most. Episode 3 is one of the only 2 episodes I straight up disliked in the season, and you'll never guess what the focus of that one was. Also, when me and a few friends watched this episode, I started dying at Angel sacrificing himself to save Husk.
Saves if he pulls it up.
Stop it.
Just fucking like, what the fuck? No, you're so right. That wasn't gonna do shit. I genuinely have nothing to say on the scene itself. I just found it very funny in the moment. No clue why. Anyway, when I say underutilized, I more mean how this big reveal of Penchus being alive was handled and impacted the rest of the season.
Anyway, long story short, Penchus was redeemed and he is in heaven now. Yay! But don't worry, I'll be back again as soon as I can. But yes, your hotel totally works. Congratulations! Bye!
I don't like this one bit. Sure, I can see why this would be funny as a joke, but like, this should be a big deal. Charlie at this point had been ridiculed for this belief. Suddenly, someone confirms that her idealistic dream is real and it's played as a joke. I wasn't expecting Ozymandias level emotion, but I was still expecting this to be a dramatic moment. There should have been a brief pause to sit with that reveal for a bit. Penchus is alive! Charlie, you were right! Your entire journey up until this point was validated. The tears you shed in the pilot have planted a seed for a new era in hell. So why is it written like this?
Okay, a lot is happening. Everything we've been working for has been proven right. On a Thursday.
This is another one of those examples of the tunnel vision writing biting a scene in the ass. Penchus was already revealed to be alive at the end of the first season, so the audience already knows. And because of that, the characters are given a here nigga damn explanation to catch them up so they can make jokes about it. I almost understand this logic. We already know, so let's move on. It makes sense a viewer is nonchalant about this, not the characters. Especially Charlie. The writers wanted to put the characters in the same emotional state as the viewer, when it should have been the totally opposite way around. Take, for example, ReZero. I'll keep this example pretty brief to avoid spoiling anything for people who haven't seen ReZero. You definitely should, by the way. It's one of the only anime that hasn't been tainted for me. Anyhow, the reason I bring this up is because the second season also has a very similar moment to Hazbin. You know, a character revealing a secret the audience is already aware of. The biggest difference is tone. The main character of ReZero, Subaru, is suddenly transported to another world. This, in any other series, would be the best thing that could happen to him.
I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die.
You're slowly losing body heat.
I'm gonna die.
You're slowly growing calm.
Oh. ReZero is an isekai story. I'm not explaining what that is, but on super hard mode. Characters can kill him with no effort. His one saving grace is his ability to respawn from death at a previous checkpoint. As nice as that ability is, there's 4 major issues that never really go away. Subaru can't tell anyone about this. If he does, they will die. Infinite retries does not mean infinite opportunities. The only hope Subaru has of overcoming these nightmare scenarios is a careful plan and using every reset to gather as much information as possible. The third is, nobody else remembers these loops except him. The bonds he's built can suddenly be erased at a moment's notice. And the final reason, dying hurts. No matter how many times you experience that, how could anyone stare death in the face? How could a regular guy die in the most gruesome ways possible without losing his mind? Subaru is totally isolated from everyone around him. He's seen everyone he cares about die in front of his eyes over and over and over and over again. And he just has to live with that. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, however. A character who I would do war crimes for sits opposite him. For reasons that aren't important for this video, she has seen all of Subaru's memories. He questions how much she knows, how much she can say. He waits for the pain in his chest to appear, for this witch to collapse in front of him, but nothing happens. He explains in greater detail, and still nothing. It hits him in that moment that the greatest weight he has carried has finally been lifted and he erupts, repeating the same line, "I can return by death," over and over and over again. Tears in his eyes, his voice breaking with every chant. Sure, we already know about this side of Subaru, but for him, this has been the first time someone has been able to truly understand the hell he's gone through, and it breaks him. The anime understands the gravity of this moment and lets the viewer sit in it for a bit. Even if you aren't surprised by this revelation, you can still empathize with Subaru here. It's a sigh of relief when someone validates his journey. This is how that scene would go with Hazbin's style of writing.
I've been returning by death!
Yeah, I already know. I was in your memories. Oh, what? I would have thought that would have been way more dramatic. Can't believe I finally revealed my big secret on a Thursday. What are the chances? I don't know. It's just kind of surprising that this was given such little attention, to be honest. In a show with such strong character moments, I think a more dramatic version would have been a highlight for me. To be honest, Charlie not having the appropriate reaction is a tonal issue, yes, but also a weird bit of characterization. Speaking of, if I'm being totally honest, I think Charlie's portrayal in this season leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not sure how else to put this, but she is written to be so stupid this season, and part of me does want to justify the examples I have with, oh well, Vox was rage baiting the hell out of her, so of course she would be all over the place. That's the in-universe reason given too.
I thought about what you said the other day. About me hyperfixating on all the lies, about me, about my mom, and you were right.
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but episode 3 pushed that suspension to its limit. Upon finding out Penchus was redeemed and alive, Charlie immediately goes to Vox to prove her hotel works. She really doesn't understand how she even managed this with Penchus, but decided this was her first priority, I guess. Charlie then ignores Angel Dust's wishes to get Vox out of the hotel, and accidentally puts Husk's life at risk with an absolutely ridiculous scheme. This was too juvenile for me to actually believe Charlie would do something like this. Charlie is childish, impulsive, and naive. These are character traits the show goes out of its way to make obvious, and I do not hate that. However, she is someone who cares greatly about her friends. She always tries to do right by them, even if she's in way over her head, like episode 4 from season 1. Seeing Angel Dust in a bad situation causes her to instantly act. She tries to save him and accidentally makes things worse. I like this writing for her. After the dust settles, she understands Angel's feelings and respects those. Until she doesn't.
Charlie, why are they here? You're aware those two crazy fucks hang out with my shipfuck boss, Valentino, and are part of the V's? And you still let them in here?
I've talked to Vox, and he assured me that he's just here to film the hotel and put out a special tonight about what he sees here.
This entire episode has Charlie regressed so much, and it's never really addressed past this point. Naive tunnel vision doesn't equal stupid. I'm saying ahead of time that this is certainly a nitpick, but it bothered me, so I want to bring it up very briefly. But Charlie not knowing the names of one of the residents of the hotel is something that should have been focused on more than this single joke. That is like her number one thing. For her to forget something like that shows how distracted she has been. Hotel.
Sick reference though, bro.
But because the scene is too focused on this joke, we don't get enough time to focus on that. So basically every aspect of Charlie's character this season. Episode 1 introduces this dude called Baxter, and the show very subtly tells you that Charlie sees him as the new Penchus.
Penchus was an inventor. That's so cool. I bet you're just like him. Everyone, meet Penchus.
Baxter.
I thought this would be its own arc of Charlie having to see Baxter as his own person. This is dropped after the first episode. Baxter then fades into the background, gives some history on he and Penchus' past, and then we get one of the worst reveals in the entire series.
Certainly. VoxTech has been pirating Heaven's television channels for decades. And some of Earth's, too.
Wait.
Oh, I designed the whole system. Really? Yes.
Okay, so this guy exists to give extra context for Penchus, and to do admittedly cute things of Nifty in the background, but then you also tie his existence to a major plot point that he showed almost no interest in before? What? I like how terrible the reason for him helping is too, because it kind of makes it clear how little anyone cared about making this moment feel satisfying. I've noticed whenever something should be fleshed out and the writers either don't want to or don't have the time to, there's an out-of-place joke there instead. A potentially interesting character was ignored and turned into a walking, talking plot device. Baxter exists only to serve the already convoluted plan the characters create in the finale. I don't want to say, oh, this season needed more episodes, but a character like Baxter makes that so friggin' hard. He and Charlie are an anomaly compared to the rest of the cast too. Every other main character is written at least decently. Obviously, Vaggie is not included in that statement because she still doesn't get up to anything worthwhile this season in my opinion. That was also my issue with her in season 1 as well. I've gone over everything with Heaven, but it feels like Vaggie only ever does things in service of Charlie. She becomes the co-host of the hotel, which I guess is something. She also goes around trying to find a new name to go under because her original name is
After the best thing ever.
Yeah. Vaggie choosing to keep her name the same is totally fine by me, as I think she's supposed to be reclaiming the name and giving it a new meaning. And that's pretty cool, but I feel like I'm doing a lot of explaining for the show here. The show dedicates no time to showing Vaggie reaching this conclusion, so that arc felt pretty hollow. Take a sip every time I say something in this show is interesting but fails to be fleshed out again. Everyone else is great though. I don't even have to add oh shit, the water's leaking on me. I don't even need to add a but to this one. I legitimately think Hazbin Season 2 does the necessary steps to make me start caring about all of these characters, and also legitimately make me engage with the story and the subtle hints that are being set up. I think the V's are a major winner for this season in terms of my interest levels. I went from indifferent to wanting to learn more about them, and that's great. Whoever designed all of Velvet's outfits was just showing off. I really like how Emily is the Heaven equivalent of Charlie. They were both born in their very specific and unique situations, but have turned out almost identical in terms of their beliefs. It's one of those nature versus nurture moments, like Jimmy and Chuck McGill, Sonic and Shadow, Jonathan and Dio, Pirate Software and Toby Fox. They're naturally good people who will face the same issues from different perspectives. And that is really cool. They both want sinners to be treated equally and have to do so in different ways. Emily is a high-ranking angel, so she argues this from a diplomatic stance. Charlie needs to prove that peace is even possible. I kinda wish we had more time to focus on this dynamic as well. I'm excited to see how Emily's character develops past this point. I was very shocked to find out how much I liked Husk and Angel's dynamic as well. Episode 4 of Season 1 was my most disliked episode by a country mile, and it was also where Husk and Angel's connection was fully established. So I thought I would always hate this pairing because I didn't like the foundation it was built off. I was completely wrong. In fact, these two might be my favorite pair in the show. Husk's protective parental figure vibes really shine through in this season. Husk already thinks it's too late for himself, and because of that, he puts all of his focus on Angel Dust instead. Sure, he'll be rotting away because of the contract he made with Alistor, but maybe, just maybe, he can help Angel Dust do something better with his eternity. That's why Husk gets so furious with him after he sacrificed his life. Problem is, Angel Dust doesn't see Husk that way. For Angel, either they are both getting out of this slump, or they'll die trying. It's great conflict for people who are so tied to each other. Husk doesn't see himself in Angel Dust's future, and Angel can't imagine a future without Husk. It's really compelling, and also justifies Angel's choice to go back to Valentino at the end of the season. It's very frustrating watching him regress, but he won't make any permanent changes until Husk also stops viewing his life as already over. Oh my god, that's why his name's Husk, that's so clever. I like how Loser Baby has become their motif. I hope I'm using that right. A jingle of the chorus plays whenever the two share an impactful moment together, and that's actually super cool. Honestly, every song these two are in are total bangers. Starting with... So, turns out Hazbin Hotel, like the whole thing, is super copyrighted. Who would have guessed somebody would do that to their IP? Anyhow, I can't play any of the songs, and I can't go anywhere near as in-depth as I wanted because this video would not exist on YouTube if I did. So there's a version up on Patreon that plays segments of the songs where it's appropriate, and I plan on doing a Patreon exclusive video breaking down more songs that weren't brought up in this video. Anyway, let's get back to it. The best musical numbers are ones that are catchy, move the plot forward, and explore characters in ways non-musicals can't. This song does all three in spectacular fashion. Firstly, the song is very catchy. I found myself humming the lyrics constantly. It progresses Angel and Husk's story, and also the best musical numbers are ones that are catchy, move the plot forward, and explore characters in ways non-musicals can't. This song does all three in spectacular fashion. Firstly, the song is very catchy. I found myself humming the lyrics constantly. It progresses Angel and Husk's story and also explores their characters in ways only a musical can. The song starts after Husk, known alcoholic and gambling addict, enters a casino and grabs a drink. This instantly should be triggering some sort of alarm, because you know this is gonna end terribly. You would think this song would blow its load and instantly start at the point of Husk's breakdown over his problems, but that's not what happens. We get this slow and almost calming start to the song. Husk displays a relief to be on his own again, immediately followed by a regret in how sad he feels despite that. It's bittersweet to be so free and so alone. He understands that he shouldn't feel down on himself. This is what he wanted, or what he thinks he wants. And instead of pausing to self-reflect on those feelings, he takes a drink, and another, and another, and another, and another, and another. Suddenly, the slow tune explodes into a high-energy, bombastic melody, reaching its peak with Husk's laughter. The first lyrics we hear are "love in a bottle, love in a bottle. Don't need love when it comes in a bottle." A sentence that encapsulates everything Husk needs to grow from immediately. He is someone who relies on alcohol in order to fill that gaping void in his heart, to distract himself from his loneliness. The first half of this song is almost too happy to make sense. What we're watching is a man relapsing and doing the same things that got his soul taken away from him in the first place. But the tone of the song is upbeat, carefree. Husk's lyrics echo this sentiment. I love the detail of him forgetting about his worries being literally depicted on a slot machine, showing Charlie, then Alistor, and finally Angel. The first half of this song does an excellent job in pulling you into Husk's spiral without you even realizing it yet. You're enticed immediately by how fun everything looks, but then everything starts to go wrong. Sure, Husk is winning and having a gay old time, but we see just how thin the line between happiness and spiraling really is for them. The tone becomes somber, but still has the hints of the upbeat chorus as Husk justifies all of this. Jin never lies or screws you over. It goes down the same every time. This is a really sad line when you think about it. The reason he'd rather waste away in a casino getting blackout drunk is because to him, that's better than the alternative. At least like this, his downfall is in his control. At least the drinks will numb the sting of betrayal. There's a moment where he does consider trying to leave the situation, but he's now trapped inside of a bottle of more alcohol, and now his spiral really begins. We get similar shots to what we saw before, but now everything is going wrong. The music once again reflects this, having a flatter key replace the high energy stings at the start. Husk is losing games. And worst of all, the people who were hyping him up are now gleefully watching him lose more and more of himself. He leaves the casino with the frame rate all over the place, unable to walk straight, and barely even able to make it to the table, where he clumsily gets a drink, and another, and another, and another. 10, 10, 10, 10. You have no idea how good this song was. My very limited ability to discuss this is not doing it any favors, to be honest. You should listen to it yourself. It's very good. It's also not a fluke. The only song I actually go back to listen to from season 1 is You Didn't Know. I think it easily has the best visuals of any song, and it's very emotional and frantic. It is everything I wanted out of a song with those topics. Season 2 is filled of songs as good or better than You Didn't Know. Gravity does an insane job because it makes me legitimately want to see more of Lute, a character I, once again, did not care about in season 1. If I can be brutally honest for a second, I could not remember her name. Now, I could never forget it. Lute has begun to see visions of a very dead Adam. He acts as this literal personification of her hatred, and also probably its source if Vaggy's flashback means anything. I love how the song instantly starts with Lute striking poses that have her looking smaller and smaller next to Adam, falling to the floor and looking like she's about to break down. But instead, she rises to her feet. There is no remedy but to burn them all. My second favorite part of the song hits here, where Adam starts to hype Lute up, strengthening her resolve. Adam fades away, and you'd think Right here is where Loot breaks, but she slams the ground instead. Loot is destroying the room by this point, seething with rage. The main part of this song is this belief in an eye for an eye. Charlie took away the one she cares about the most. Loot has to return the favor. Now my favorite part happens. While Loot reminisces about Adam, about how she couldn't save him, that ghost begins sliding through a knife. Before we cut back to Loot, there are tears in her eyes and she finally begins to break down. Her regrets at not being able to save Adam is obvious. She wants to mourn him. She misses him. But instead of letting it all out, these emotions further fan the flames of her hatred. God, this is so good. Luke cannot be reasoned with anymore. The only way she will be satisfied is by getting even. You can bet on tragedy, like gravity. Is not my favorite line ever, but makes the message so clear. There's a streak of being positive here. While I can acknowledge the show's crazy good high points, these moments are still next to other parts that just blow, in my opinion. Velvet, for all of her positives, still doesn't feel like a character for the most part. Vox and Val get more screen time and are more fleshed out in general. So I'm really hoping we get more info on her in the later seasons at least, because her big fall did make me raise a brow on what she really is and why she's like that. Since the traits characters end up with sometimes matter a lot to their wider character, or they don't. I've already explained why Baxter has wasted potential, but he isn't the only member of the hotel who gets kinda shafted. When I lay things out the way I did, I kinda realized Charlie, Angel Dusk, and Husk are the only characters in the hotel who I feel mostly positive towards. The other characters are a mix of mostly negative and nifty. But then there's Alistor, a character I called the funniest person in the whole show. I still agree with this, by the way. The finale finally allowed Lucifer to cut loose and show us why they call him the King of Hell. What was obvious to me is that Lucifer is supposed to be a crouching moron, hidden badass. A character who is supremely powerful, but also a bit silly. They usually have something limiting them from being as efficient as they might like to be or have been in the past. So think someone like Sans, a jokester who just happens to have an extremely good matchup into genocidal, time-altering children and sentient flowers. There's like 20 different anime characters I could use as an example too. A lot of them are bad examples, but that's not important. The main reason I bring this up is because writing one of these dudes in a convincing way is really difficult. Balancing between goofy oddball and ultra-powerful demigod is a Herculean task, because you need to, firstly, justify the character acting the way they do, then explain why they don't end a conflict immediately. In something like Mob Psycho, Shigeo Kageyama thinks using his divine abilities to harm other people is cringe, which is based. Characters really need to poke at the guy to make him actually use his powers on them. And even after doing so, he feels awful about the entire situation. Conflict can still occur because the question isn't always, how is Mob gonna beat this guy? Sometimes it's, can Mob reason with a power-drunk high schooler? Can Mob defeat a spirit without harming the person he's trying to save? Can Mob successfully ask out his childhood crush? I think Scamboli Review said it best when he summarized one of the conflicts as characters needing to realize they're just dickheads with magic. Issues arise when the moron and badass sides end up feeling like two separate characters who are messing with each other's goals, when they should feel like two sides of the same person. I'd say in season 1, the writers do avoid this issue. Lucifer does next to nothing in the hotel, and I love that for him. This man is maybe the most unfit king I've seen in a hot minute. Lucifer hides himself away from most of the sinners in hell because he literally hates them.
So I just have to ignore them. They are all mega gross and not a single one of them has good taste in musical theater.
The second Charlie calls, the only person down there he cares about, he comes running to not make an awful impression, pretends to care about the other residents of the hotel. He gets people's names wrong, tries to relate to them on extremely superficial levels, and tries to railroad everyone into doing what he wants. He's clearly very flawed and a bit pathetic. Lucifer really wants his daughter's approval and does very stupid things to get it, like beefing with Alistor and trying to get Vox to stop slandering her. However, the moment Charlie is in legitimate danger, he locks in. The only thing stopping him is his contract that he made with the people of heaven, allowing the executions to happen, but making heaven-born sinners like Charlie immune from this, until Adam breaks this deal.
You're in my
bitch!
Whoa, Dad.
I like this. I think this is a really nice way to have a strong character who still has limits, without destroying his credibility or intelligence. It allows him to be incompetent without seeming stupid. This will be important for later. Season 2 feels like the writers had no idea what they wanted to do with Lucifer half the time. Firstly, we find out that Lucifer can't harm sinners in hell as part of his punishment.
It isn't just a place, it's a punishment. And mine is that I'm stuck here with all these sinners, can't kill them, can't do nothing with them, so I just have to ignore them.
I have problems with this. Lucifer breaking one restriction only to end up with a brand new one we didn't know about kind of ruins the catharsis of that moment in season 1. If this no harm to sinners rule was established in the previous season alongside the Executioner one, I think I would have been more fine with that. As it stands now, it kind of feels like a sudden addition to stop Lucifer from just murdering Vox on sight. A bit of his time is spent having him interact with Alistor, and while I think the two and their beef over Charlie is a bit forced, I can look past it for some seeds I noticed being planted for future seasons. Spoiling some of my Alistor section here, but the two are kind of in a similar position. Two very strong people who have some sort of limiter stopping them from doing whatever they want. Alistor breaks those limits for himself, but seems to still be planning something, and I think I know what it is. Alistor seems to be planning some sort of hostile takeover for
Lucifer,
either stealing his power or his body, a la Goku Black in Dragon Ball. It makes the best dad stuff from season 1 come back in a more sinister way. Oh, Charlie, I'm your father now. I don't know, we'll just I think Star Wars goes that way. I've never finished a movie. It also enforces the links the characters share. In season 1, Alistor takes his time to show up against Adam. He is sure that he will destroy the angel just like everyone else who's challenged him, but he fails in spectacular fashion. Fuck. He has to scurry away and watches Lucifer does everything he wanted to do, and more. Alistor is extremely power hungry. It's one of the only things he talks about, but he must be the worst at parties. Now that he understands that he was just a big fish in a small pond, why doesn't he upgrade his bowl with some angelic power, but with none of the restrictions Lucifer has? At least, that's what I think could happen. I don't know. Also, I need to talk about this scene really quickly.
This for me, honey? You want your old padre to kick it right here or something? Can do. I can kick it. The whole serial killer aesthetic is new, but, you know, whatever you're into, gotta follow those dreams, right?
I hate everything about this. Lucifer goes from aloof dad to actual moron in this scene, just to get him in position for the finale. And that's kinda lazy. It's a scene that could have been played straight by having Vox actually trick him into doing something impulsive, but instead is played for laughs without much consideration for how this might impact Lucifer's character later. I kind of get the humor in a character literally walking into a red X being kidnapped, but I'm gonna think about the scene every time I see this character on screen. Why would you do this to me? Whatever, let's just go to Alistor. I do not like this character very much. He was a chronic aura farmer that only beat no-names and then immediately got humbled when he faced an actual threat. And I'd have been fine with that if the show didn't try and portray him as cool. He should be intimidating to the characters, but cause an eye roll to the audience. Like Noya from JJK. You've seen this clip a million times, and it has done irreparable damage to that man. I called him an industry plant, Tumblr sexy man, and people really ran with that. Something, the slander is so good I could die. Anyway, the header wasn't lying. I think I was extremely close to giving a damn about this man outside of pushing my agenda. Season 2 reveals Alistor's backstory, and another layer of his character that was hinted to at the end of season 1, his real motivation. It's revealed the reason Alistor was able to become so strong wasn't because he was just built different, but because he had made a deal with someone who had real power. He did all of this so he could continue having fun, like he did in the living world. This is extremely childish, and I think that's the point. From the moment his argument of Lucifer started in this episode, Alistor was pouting, getting extremely mad. He was whining about his broken stuff. All things I could imagine some kid doing. He complains that his deal didn't make him the strongest. He tries to throw his weight around, and instead of every other time he's done this, Alistor does not get what he wants. All he can do is seethe in a park.
Calling me her pet. I'm not your pet, you lousy. I'll show her. Oh, she'll see.
Suddenly, this gave me a lot to think about. What if Alistor's aura loss in season 1 was intentional? To show the viewers that he was some kind of poser? What if the point was that we weren't supposed to take Alistor seriously as an actual threat? Spoilers, we'll get to that. Alistor has a contract limiting his abilities and crafts a plan to break it and keep his power. He targets Vox and his desire to be the sole ruler of everything. Something I hinted at over an hour ago, Jesus. Alistor gives Vox everything he's ever wanted. An admission of defeat of Alistor and the clout that comes along with it. All so he could start fanning the flames for Vox's self-destruction. He makes a contract between himself and Vox, where Alistor is powerless as long as Vox doesn't put a hand on Charlie. And then he just starts rage baiting the dude into making worse decisions that isolate him. Things happen that lead to Vox doing the one thing that he shouldn't have done, and now Alistor is free to wreak havoc. But actually, Alistor was playing 4D chess because another deal was also broken at the same time. Alistor made a deal with this person called Rosie, one that made him the strongest, but he was forced to obey her every command. Despite his obsession for power, he is being limited and hates it. I think this portrayal of Alistor is very interesting. I have problems though. Okay, look, I like the cock chess stuff. I thought it was very funny. I love that Rosie doesn't take Alistor seriously, but just as quickly as this new dynamic was explored, it was immediately thrown out. If my theory about Alistor turns out to be correct, then his interesting dynamic is gone. He was basically just returned to the position I thought he was back in season 1, even down to the hints that he'll be an even greater threat in the future. Alistor, to me, hasn't moved as his new portrayal was already how he was being portrayed in season 1. In episode 4, we find out about this contract. 4 episodes later, and it's gone. That feels way too fast. I'm sure that my perspective comes from my original thoughts about him from season 1, but I can't shake it. Currently, I sit at a crossroads. On one hand, I really like some of the ideas presented in this season. It feels a lot more focused than the previous one, and that's great. On the other, oh my freaking god, this season, man. Every issue I had aside from the music has either not changed or gotten worse. For every good idea, there is an equally major bad idea that sours my taste on the show. I still feel extremely mixed on this season, and the show as a whole, to be honest. Well, I would be if it weren't for one major character who I haven't really talked about yet. Enter Vox. I don't think people understand just how difficult it is to make a character that is interesting at a glance, well-designed, likable, and iconic. I feel like anyone who has ever dabbled in creative writing has agonized over trying to check all of these boxes for a character they're creating. It's probably why there are so many videos on the topic of creating an iconic character. For me, I don't think there's a formula to make a character interesting or iconic. I think there are attributes that increase the chances of me liking a character and wanting to know more about them, but it's never guaranteed. For example, my love for someone like Sans or Bill Cipher versus my overall dislike for someone like Alistor. Despite the likable traits they share, it's no secret that I'm not in love with Alistor. Despite that, I truly do believe Vivziepop is very good at making every character in the cast of Hazbin Hotel hit the 4 boxes I talked about. To me, it's easily her biggest strength. Sure, there's an argument to be had at whether the writers fulfill that initial interest, merely, but even then, we're talking about it, right? If an audience member can be legitimately disappointed at the way a character is written, it's kind of a win for the creator, because it means people care enough about the character to feel something when a writing decision is made. I wouldn't have spent over an hour talking about this stuff if I didn't care. Vox in my original Hazbin video gets mentioned like once, I think. I did not care for him, so he was barely a presence in the video. After season 2 had finished, I gotta say, he might be my favorite character in the entire Hellaverse. I throw around terms like wasted potential and like and subscribe a lot in videos where I talk about writing. I love comparing how the topic of the video did something I didn't like and how another piece of media handled it in a way more satisfying way for me. But this is the first time I can use Hazbin Hotel as a comparison for Hazbin Hotel. In a sea of conflicting opinions on writing and characters, we have Vox at the center of everything, acting as a perfect demonstration for just how effective Vivzipop and the writers are at making well-designed, fleshed out, and iconic characters. From the moment he was introduced, Vox immediately forced himself into an important role because of his connection to Alistor, coming in and bragging about how much better he is than the radio demon. TV is brighter, newer, it's the future. In real life, it's literally what killed the radio's stronghold over people's lives. If he and Alistor being red and blue didn't give it away, these two are supposed to be contrasts. Alistor is the type to loathe needing others' helps and broadcasts those feelings onto Vox. This clearly stuck with Vox as he began to make a name for himself in Hell. Alistor's words made him feel like unless he was the only one standing at the top, then it wasn't a proper victory. This is Vox's main issue, and I adore this. Here's someone who is very good at using people, having a massive insecurity over the idea that people might catch on, or, God forbid, not give him total credit for something he had a hand in. Oh no! That pride and hatred bloats back up to the surface the moment Alistor pushes a few buttons. It's enough to make Vox push away the other Vs just to prove a point to Alistor, that he is the one in control. And everyone is gonna find out with his brand new plan to conquer heaven. A plan that only works because he leeches off the actual work the hotel did to push away an angel's attack. Of course, there's the issue of everyone getting hit with the stupid sauce to facilitate a lot of this, but I almost want to forgive it because of how much it strengthens Vox's character. Vox Populi begins with Lucifer interrupting a Vox rally, trying to make a big show of how strong he is. I love the lyrics because they are trying way too hard to be intimidating, which perfectly fits Lucifer's characters. The visuals also highlight this too. Lucifer does everything to scare people aside from attacking them. I'm very pleased that the writers trust the audience enough to understand this. Also, this really cool shot is gonna be very important. Vox doesn't even react to Lucifer because he already knows about the restriction on the King of Hell due to him brainwashing Angel, and he uses this to make himself look even better than he already did. First, aura farming because he knows he is in no danger, but also tearing down Lucifer's image, highlighting that Lucifer hasn't done a single thing for his people and won't. He invokes the name of Lilith and Lucifer is powerless to do anything but walk away. This song only becomes better with Vox Day. This song is cool on like 15 levels. Also, I will point out that the name of the song makes it look like it says Vox DI, which is just really unfortunate. Firstly, Vox literally steals the intro played while Lucifer was making his entrance. He even gets a similar shot later on too. Vox is a thief. He piggybacks off the mirror of everyone around him. It's such a good choice from a meta standpoint to have this song use the same notes as Lucifer's. It shows him gaining power in such a unique way. Not even the show's soundtrack is safe from his grubby little hands. Keep in mind that ever since Vox had captured Alistor, he has been doing this victory lap on everyone who doubted him. Vox's VA, Christian Ball, changes his delivery to better match the characters he's talking to. He's buttering them up by literally dancing to their tunes. I think the songs with Vox in them are my personal favorite for the season. Don't You Forget is another one of those really good songs that I'd love to break down in more detail, but YouTube isn't gonna let that happen. It's okay, Val ruins it anyway.
Oh, hey, you two should just fuck already.
What? Am I wrong? And can I film it?
You're just ruining it. Now, all of the songs that feature Vox, without the V's, uses someone else's motif or words, whatever. It enhances the point that he is nothing on his own. But then there's Brighter, the song that left my Spotify looking like this while I was writing the video. Who am I kidding? I like musicals. I like this song. It starts with Vox saying Rome wasn't built in a day, doing a tie and overanalyzing again, but I think this word choice is maybe the most prophetic line ever. Ancient Rome was an amazing place in terms of accomplishments, but it cannibalized itself by the end due to political unrest and other things that aren't important for this point. People were no longer happy with their leader and crashed out over it. Vox saying this is foreshadowing of where his journey is going to end. His kingdom will be left in ruin because of his pride and ego, all delivered in the first 20 seconds of the song. I wonder what the rest is like. It shows Vox's rise to power in the real world. He sees someone in a higher position and his burning envy consumes him. He kills these people and takes their place, their clothes, their entire personas. This also conveys Vox's biggest limitation. The man can only grasp the things that others have. He is incapable of forging his own path. He's trapped, chasing the tail of anyone who manages to surpass him, and his very short-sighted worldview. A worldview that comes tumbling down the second he's actually on top. At this point, Vox controls his TV network. He is called the god of media, but he still isn't satisfied. He needs to surround himself with TV reflections of himself. He has to preach to his followers about how he wants bigger, better, and brighter. He needs everyone's eyes on him, whether that's uncritical glazing or blinding hatred. To him, it's all the same. I love the shot, by the way. However, he was always doomed to fail.
Holy shit.
That's why he's a TV head.
Holy shit.
This song is so bloody good. Visually, 10. Music, 10. Hype moments and aura, 100. No notes. This is the best song in all of Hazbin Hotel.
Get off that nigga dick, bro. What is you doing?
Nah, fuck that. I'm glazing. Vox steps up to his new throne, crushing the pictures of everyone who has tried to stop him. His destiny finally within arm's reach. He has a god cannon that can be used to harm the people in heaven. Everyone is on his side, and best of all, he just got Charlie to admit that he's the strongest sinner in hell. With his approval rating at 100%, he truly is. He has outgrown his bowl and needs a bigger, newer canvas to paint on. Vox was such a breath of fresh air in this show. I'm gonna be real. I wanted the season to end with him actually stepping foot in heaven. Of course, he should have a dramatic third act breakdown for all the awful stuff he did throughout the show. But until we got to that point, I was along for the whole journey. I was truly invested in what was going on in Hazbin Hotel. This should be the deciding factor on my opinions on this season, right? Right? Here's the funny thing about that.
I'm a fucking god!
Walking into this finale, I'll be honest, I was expecting Vox to make it to heaven. I expected him to win, so that his breakdown hinted by Alistor would hit like a truck. I also thought that Charlie and Vox's similarities would be given more focus too. Remember when I brought that up over an hour ago? Jesus Christ. Now, I know I'm a big Vox glazer. Ignoring that for a moment, I thought him taking over heaven just kind of made sense considering Hazbin was getting 4 seasons minimum. Things need to get better before they can get worse, and it would be really insane if one of the biggest plot points of the show was dealt with in this season. I mean, there wasn't enough time to do that. Season 2, Episode 8 of Hazbin Hotel attempts to do this anyway. Without just explaining everything that goes on in this episode, Charlie and the gang attempt to stop Vivzy Pop's plans, bro? What are you talking about? Charlie and the gang attempt to stop Vox's plans and legitimize the hotel in one swoop. They fail, but Alistor is freed and is then able to rage bait Vox into wrecking half the city and delegitimizing himself, which then eradicates all of the points he's correct about. But oh no, the weapon Vox was firing is malfunctioning and is gonna explode the whole city. Emily and Charlie try to stop this, and Camilla realizes in that moment that Charlie has been trying to save sinners. So her, the other overlords, and a bunch of others go to help. Velvet and the sex pest Val help too, and they stop the bomb. Everyone vows to never bring this up again, and then they leave. I dislike this for a number of reasons that the summary won't initially make clear, so let me go more in depth. Number 1, everyone choosing to help in the end isn't an issue in concept, but its depiction is where I have problems. Everyone other than Camilla and the spider guy, I forgot his name, I'm tired, are only helping because they don't want their city to blow up. This isn't a moment where everyone should be big smiling. They aren't helping out of a legitimate want to do the right thing. Most of the people here were just prepping to do bad stuff with Vox. It drives me a little crazy too because Alistor has another really good moment during this scene. He tells Rosie that he'll only help if she makes a deal with him. Either that or he'll let them all burn. This is good because it makes sense for Alistor's character. Of course, he'd be smiling here. He just got what he wanted. And more. The same reasoning could have been done for everyone, but there wasn't the same level of attention given, and that's super disappointing. It's like this moment superseded any other character's motives, which has been a massive issue from the very beginning of the season. Issues that were seemingly disappearing, but I was wrong. Every main issue I have brought up in this video comes back in its worst forms. The main characters have no positive impact on the events of the season. The same issues solved this time around were proving redemption was a thing, stopping Vox's slander, and having Heaven accept sinners. The plan to FaceTime Penchus falls through and Seraphim has to do all of the heavy lifting. I guess Penchus built some stuff, but it didn't really mean much when Seraphim just gave Penchus access to the network. Vox was beaten by Alistor. He destroyed his own reputation during their fight, and that delegitimized him in the eyes of every sinner in hell well before Penchus showed up. Heaven's opinions shifting barely have anything to do with Charlie and the hotel. Whenever they share screen time, they aren't even engaging with this discussion. Sure, Charlie did help Penchus get redeemed, but that was in season 1. Charlie didn't do anything to forward these parts of the plot during the season. She just made things worse and had the win handed to her by Alistor. Lou is a plot device for this season. She exists to give Vox even more credibility and nothing else, despite the season constantly threatening to make her do something. When everyone was doing Kumbaya, she jumps down and tries to ruin things, and I got invested again. But that intrigue disappeared as fast as it arrived because she's shooed away extremely quickly. But don't worry, next season she's gonna be a real threat. Not sure how that's gonna work as the Heaven plot has been settled pretty thoroughly. Everything before this episode was leading to what felt like a massive shakeup in the plot, but the story takes the safest, least interesting option. It brings up thought-provoking questions and then hurriedly pushes them behind some curtains. Oh, what about all of the issues Vox brings up? Fuck it. Cool dilemma of heaven and hell? Fuck it. Charlie actually needing to do something like she did in season 1? Fuck it. The ending is written as if she aided in this story and I was just supposed to go along with it. But I am not convinced that the characters have actually worked for this ending. Everything I liked about this season was undermined in spectacular fashion. Neat. I was critical of season 1 under the assumption that the next would be far less restrained. Oh, you know, everything was set up so the second would go crazy. But it still had a lot of the glaring problems that should have gone away. And I think that's the worst part of this. I like the ideas presented in this season. I just don't like how they got portrayed. It's the potential show. And I mean that in a sad way, because I want it to be a good show for me, and I don't know if it ever will. But I won't ever stop watching. This show is like crack for me, dude. I can't help it. On the slight chance that either show suddenly shoots up in quality, I need to be there, especially if it's bad, so I can line my pockets. Friends, that's the end of the video. I don't know if this is going to be my last video discussing these shows. The show would have to suddenly get better or a lot worse for me to have an interesting story to tell by this point. I just really don't want to make another nightmare of a video like this one. I've been working on this for way too long and I'm tired. If you made it this far, you should comment something like, Ty, replanting those trees doesn't fix the forest fire, dude. In 2026, I want to give off the vibe that I'm actually atoning for my sins as opposed to making them so much worse. Before I go, I also want to thank my Patreons and channel members. You should donate if you have a few extra dollars to spare, so my sacred lips can say your name or something, I don't know. Thank you to Esvo, Amorphine, Alex Payne 1015 or 1015 or 1015, I don't know. Dereki, Lois, was it Lowies? Arizumi, who's also on my channel memberships too, like holy thanks. Doob, Jack27, Buxo, Punas, Onion, Chromatic Aberrant, Nekocho Official, who is very good at Overwatch by the way, Obscuroni, and it's Israfael, isn't it? Oh my gosh, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. You guys are amazing. And I'm really sorry if I butchered your name there. Please tell me if I did. I wouldn't be able to make this stuff without you. Speaking of, I think I'm gonna head to bed. I have a stream to do, like tomorrow. So yeah, check me out on Twitch or whatever. Or, I don't know. We're gonna be doing Ultimate Custom Night, it's gonna be great. With that, I wanna wish all of my friends a wonderful day. See you, lads.